Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Anna Sothen.
Good morning, everybody. This is Anna Sothen, the executive producer and host of the Good Neighbor Podcast Southside here in Richmond, Virginia. And I am super excited to welcome you to episode number 7, where my dear friend Lynn Bossi has decided and agreed to join me. She is one of those friends who I say, hey, let's go do this. And she's like, yeah, let's go do it. So Lynn, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are.
Sure. I'm Lynn Kinsel. I'm a residential loan officer with CNF Mortgage, 30 years plus of experience in the industry. And at the end of the day, I'm solving the puzzle to home ownership.
I love that. And that's your catchphrase or your, what's the word that I'm looking
Tagline.
for? Tagline. Yep. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. So tagline. So I think it's super important for people to understand what you mean by that. So share a little bit what you mean, and then maybe what it means for the homeowners that you're working with.
Absolutely. So I think of getting a mortgage like solving a jigsaw puzzle. And each person that comes to me has their own box of puzzle pieces. No two clients come to me with the same situations. I mean, even two borrowers, maybe a husband and wife or even partners, they each come with their own box of pieces. And so my job is really to put all of those pieces together to come up with a financing solution to help them purchase a home. It could also be to help them refinance a home or buy perhaps a vacation home or an investment property.
I love that. So tell us a little bit about your journey. So you said you've been in the industry for 30 years, which I mean, a lot of people, I speak to a lot of mortgage professionals, and not a lot of them have that kind of experience. That's pretty good. So tell us a little bit about that journey, if you will.
So I'm lucky. I actually have both sides of the coin with regard to experience. The beginning part of my career, which started about 1988, started in mortgage loan closings, where I prepared the documents that go to the closing table when you purchase a home. And so from there, basically, I wanted to learn every piece of the loan journey. And so I have processing experience, I have underwriting experience, I have management experience. And even when I was in some of those roles, I did a little bit of originating, but it really wasn't until the market crashed in 07, 08, when operations jobs went goodbye, along with a lot of companies, including a few that I've worked for. So this was coming into the sales part of the originating of the loan. Really, it's kind of the last stop on the train, and it's probably one of the most fulfilling roles that I've had in my 30 years.
That's amazing. So talking about that, having been in the industry for 30 years, you've seen it all, right? You've seen the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs, the wonky, left turns that nobody saw coming. So tell us some maybe myths or misconceptions that people have about the whole home buying process, or, applying for a loan and things of that nature.
So I think the biggest myth is that you need 20% down.
Okay.
So even if you're not a first-time home buyer, your down payment could be 5 or 3.5%.
Oh.
For a first-time home buyer on a conventional loan, it's 3%, FHA 3.5%. So I think that's really the the myth that as far as down payment, that you need 20% down. Not so much a myth, but more of a don't know what you don't, you don't know this, but in addition to a down payment, there are also closing costs associated with the loan, the cost to get the loan. And so a lot of people think, oh, I can get into a home for no money down. And that is true, but there are still going to be costs that you're going to have to bear. at the end of the day.
Okay. That's really good to know. And I do think and I'm trying to think of when we started our home buying process, and even, I don't know how many homes we've owned now. It's either 2 or 3, but it's always been, you have to have 20% down, right? This blanket statement and not realizing that there are other options. And I think you do a really good job, because I've known you for quite a while, of really trying to find the best option, like you said, for the person who's coming to you at the table, right? So it's not a blanket, I'm going to fit you into my box. I'm going to create that box around you that fits your scenario the best.
Right. And so in having to solve that puzzle, I have to really look at things from all angles. And because I have the experience that I do, that gives me a leg up on somebody who's maybe not been around as long as I have. Maybe they're even new to the business. And of course, they don't know what they don't know, but I have this experience. I may have even seen something similar. I'm not afraid to ask. I'm not afraid to challenge. Well, this is what the guideline says. This is where my customer falls. Are we good? So I think that really sets me apart business-wise, because I am able to really look at it from all angles and then go after a solution.
Awesome. I love that. So tell me about, again, going back on your 30 years of experience, you've seen it all. So tell me about a hardship or a challenge that you faced. I like to call them sandpaper moments, right? A sandpaper moment that you have experienced in your business and in your industry that you've been able to learn from and grow from, and then your subsequent clients have benefited from.
So while where I'm at now is the most fulfilling of all the roles I've had, I really never saw myself here.
Oh.
And it wasn't until 2007 when my company shut down. I lost my job. I had no income. I didn't have personal income. My husband had income, but we had to, for lack of a better word, pivot. I had to really think about, was I going to stay in this industry? And then if I was, what were going to be my options? Because there weren't many. There were 2. I could go be a foreclosure specialist somewhere, or I could get into sales. And at that point, I got into what I call business to business sales. That's probably a good layman's term for it, but because I got into the wholesale side of loan originating, of mortgage lending. And so my clients were mortgage brokers, and I helped loan officers structure their deal using the experience I was bringing in, because at that point I was all operations. So I really think that was, a moment in time when I had to really decide where I was going to take myself career-wise, and that entree into wholesale. Then, about 4 years later, decided to get into origination, and I called up one of my clients who was a mortgage broker, and I said, "Hey, I want to do what you do," and he said, "Come on," and here I am.
Awesome. And the rest is history, they say, right?
That's right. That's right.
So what's one thing that you wish our listeners listen to that? What is one thing that you wish that our listeners knew about your business?
There's a lot of behind the scenes, what I call just straight up number crunching. And it doesn't take a minute. It takes several minutes. It takes sometimes into the hours to try and work somebody's situation. So it's not a matter of, hey, here's my information. How quickly can you have an answer for me? Well, if I have 5 of you, if I've got 5 applications in, it's not going to take just a few minutes to understand whether or not you are able to be pre-approved to move forward to purchase a home. So I think more about just kind of the time it takes, the process it takes, to really give someone a pre-approval.
Yeah. And they don't see the behind the scenes of everything that
No.
goes on, right? Like you said, the whole number crunching, but because you look at it as a puzzle piece, you're trying to figure out which puzzle pieces fit, which ones are maybe a little askew, and is there something that you could do in order to fix it so that it does fit, or is that like, a not a stop in the thing, but like, hey, we have to fix this, and it's not something I can fix. We have to fix it together, that type of thing.
Oh, absolutely. And I look at the client, they're the client, but then I look at myself as a partner, and they're my partner and I'm their partner. And both of us have to do what we need to do. So that means uploading your documents. That means providing me things, but that doesn't mean that once you complete the application and you upload everything that I'm still not going to have questions.
Right.
And it's a deep dive. I think that's something else that people should know, is that this is, a lender is lending you money on the biggest transaction of maybe your lifetime. We need to know stuff, and we are going to get all up in your business, in your bank statements, in your credit. And this isn't to scare you, but
Right.
this is more to understand what that process looks like. So if I don't ask the right questions, I really can't you're not going to close on a home.
Right. Well, that deep dive, or that getting all up into your business, is not only to protect the loan, right? But it's also to protect the consumer, because if you don't ask those questions and then you just go into it blind, and then all of a sudden they're put in a position where they can't fulfill their financial obligations, then you've done them a disservice. So while it seems intrusive to the consumer, right? Like, why do you need to ask about that? Why, like those types of things, it can feel a little bit like, you're being under a microscope, but it's necessary because what you're doing is protecting them, right?
Well, and we have a whole list of, federal acts that we have to follow to make sure that we are putting the consumer in a place for them to be financially successful. And so that we are making sure that we're not, discriminating, and we are not, violating a client's rights. So, it's all of those things together that really make up that big puzzle.
Absolutely. So tell people what you'd like to do for fun. So it's not always work and play, right? So what are some of the things that you like to do for fun?
Well, we like to travel. We have traveled to Key West this year. We've traveled to Florida a few times, and we just got back from Pittsburgh following one of our passions, which is baseball. We're big Yankee fans, and while the Yankees are out of it right now, this last week is going to be a pretty competitive week in determining who's going to go into the playoffs. So definitely have my eye on some of that. Even though my team isn't in there, there's some great teams in there, and perhaps some teams I don't want to get in there. So I'm rooting against them.
We shall not mention either side of those things.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw you a little curveball here.
Okay.
What's a book that you would recommend to somebody who is another business owner that you think has helped you in your business?
So 2 books. One I read a few years ago, and I've reread it, but Jen Sincero's "You Are a Badass."
Love that book.
Love that book. And then one that I recently read, I don't know the author offhand, but "Unreasonable Hospitality."
Oh, interesting.
And while it is based on, it's a memoir, if you will, of a journey of the author's journey into the hospitality industry, and how he and a partner created and took their restaurant from number 50 on the world's best restaurant in the world, to number 1.
Oh, awesome.
And while, sure, you might not think, what kind of business book is this, on restauranting? But so many nuggets in business I pulled out of that book. Just thinking about how we can take our business interaction really to the next level, like be unreasonably customer focused. And that's, a lot of great nuggets in that book too.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. So how can our listeners reach out to you, contact you, learn a little bit more, or if they want to get pre-approved for a loan, how do they do that?
Awesome. Sure. So I am on Facebook, Lynn Bossi Kinsel. You can find me there. You can find me 411mortgagehelp.com. So for those aged listeners, they're going to understand what 411 means. That's information. So I kind of did a little play on that, but 411mortgagehelp.com takes you to my website where you can apply and find all of my contact information. LBK Lens RVA is my Instagram handle as well. And would love to connect.
Awesome. And you do business in not just in Virginia, but what other states as well?
Correct. So I have really south of Virginia. So North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. And then we do have some resources for those folks who are in Maryland and West Virginia. We have some branches that are licensed in those states. So, definitely can help someone get connected.
Perfect. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Lynn, for being here today and sharing all of your knowledge and your expertise. And so like Lynn said, if you want to reach out to her and start that process, she can definitely help you with solving the puzzle to homeownership.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Southside. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpsouthside.com. That's gnpsouthside.com. Or call 804-492-7720.